how indeed should he know it is some gracious God through him, else it would never have entered his head to tell me them. He that is not used to speak to any one of us. Well then let us not lie under the wrath of God, but be obedient unto him. Nay indeed, but if a raven by its croaking bears thee any sign, it is not the raven but God that sends the sign through the raven. And if he signifies anything to thee through human voice, will he not cause the man to say these words to thee, that thou mayest know the power of the divine? How he sends a sign to some in one way and to others in another, and on the greatest and highest matters of all signifies his will through the noblest messenger. What else does the poet mean? I spake unto him erst myself, and sent Hermes in the shining, one to check and warn him, the husband not to slay, nor woo the wife. In the same way, my friend Heraclitus, who had a trifling suit about a petty farm at Rhodes, first showed the judges that his cause was just, and then at the finish cried, I will not entreat you, nor do I care what sentence you pass. It is you who are on your trial, not I. And so he ended the case. As for us, we behave like a herd of deer when they flee from the huntsman's feathers in affright. Which way do they turn? What haven of safety do they make for? Why, they rush upon the nets, and thus they perish by confounding what they should fear with that wherein no danger lies. Not death or pain is to be feared, but the fear of death or pain. Well said the poet, therefore, death has no terror, only a death of shame. How is it then that certain external things are said to be natural, and others contrary to nature? Why, just as it might be said if we stood alone and apart from others, a foot, for instance, I will allow it is natural should be clean, but if you take it as a foot, and as a thing which does not stand by itself, it will beseem it, if need be, to walk in the mud, to tread on thorns, and sometimes even to be cut off for the benefit of the whole body. Else it is no longer a foot. In some such way we should conceive of ourselves also. What art thou, a man? Looked at as standing by thyself and separate, it is natural for thee in health and wealth long to live. But looked at as a man and only as a part of a whole, it is for that whole's sake that thou shouldst at one time fall sick, at another brave the perils of the sea again, know the meaning of want, and perhaps die an early death. Why then repine? Knowest thou not that as the foot is no more a foot if detached from the body, so thou in like case art no longer a man? For what is a man? A part of a city, first of the city of gods and of men, next of that which ranks nearest it, a miniature of the universal city. In such a body, in such a world enveloping us, among lives like these, such things must happen to one or another. Thy part then being there is to speak of these things as is meet, and to order them as befits the matter. That was a good reply which Diogenes made to a man who asked him for letters of recommendation. That you are a man, he will know when he sees you, whether a good or a bad one. He will know if he has any skill in discerning the good and the bad. But if he has none, he will never know, though I write to him 1,000 times. It is as though a piece of silver money desired to be recommended to some one to be tested. If the man be a good judge of silver, he will know the coin will tell its own tale. Even as the traveler asks his way of him that he meets inclined in no wise to bear to the right rather than to the left, for he desires only the way leading whither he would go, so should we come unto God as to a guide, even as we use our eyes, without admonishing them, to show us some things rather than others, but content to receive the images of such things as they present unto us. But as it is, we stand anxiously watching the victim, and with the voice of supplication call upon the augur, Master, have mercy on me, vouchsafe unto me a way of escape. Slave, would you then have aught else than what is best? Is there anything better than what is God's good pleasure? Why, as far as in you lies, would you corrupt your judge and lead your counselor astray? God is beneficent, but the good also is beneficent. It should seem then that where the real nature of God is, there too is to be found the real nature of the good. What then is the real nature of God? intelligence, knowledge, right, reason. Here then, without more ado, seek the real nature of the good, for surely thou dost not seek it in a plant or in an animal that reasoneth not. Seek then the real nature of the good in that without whose presence thou wilt not admit the good to exist in aught else. What then? Are not these other things also works of God? They are, but not preferred to honor, nor are they portions of God. But thou art a thing preferred to honor, thou art thyself a fragment torn from God. Thou hast a portion of him within thyself. How is it then that thou dost not know thy high descent, dost not know whence thou comest? Dost not know whence thou comest? When thou eatest, wilt thou not remember who thou art that eatest, and whom thou feedest? In intercourse, in exercise, in discussion, knowest thou not that it is a God whom thou feedest, a God whom thou exercisest, a God whom thou bearest about with thee, O miserable? And thou perceivest it not. Thinkest thou that I speak of a God of silver or gold, that is without thee? Nay, thou bearest him within thee, all unconscious of polluting him with thoughts impure and unclean deeds, were an image of God present. Thou wouldst not dare to act as thou dost. Yet when God himself is present within thee, beholding and hearing all, thou dost not blush to think that such thoughts and do such deeds. O thou that art insensible of thine own nature, and liest under the wrath of God, why then are we afraid when we send a young man from the schools into active life, lest he should indulge his appetites intemperately, lest he should debase himself by ragged clothing, or be puffed up by fine raiment? Knowest he not the God within him? Knowest he not with whom he is starting on his way? Have we patience to hear him say to us, Would I had thee within me? Hast thou not God where thou art, and having him dost thou still seek for any other? Would he tell thee aught what else than these things? Why, wert thou a statue of Phidias, an Athena, or a Zeus, thou wouldst bethink thee both of thyself and thine artificer. And hadst thou any sense, thou wouldst strive to do no dishonor to thyself or him that fashioned thee, nor appear to beholders in unbefitting guise. But now, because God is thy maker, is that why thou carest not of that of what sort thou shalt know thyself to be? Yet how different the artists and their workmanship! What human artists' work, for example, has in the faculties that are displayed in fashioning it? Is it aught but marble, bronze, gold, or ivory? Nay, when the Athena of Phidias has put forth her hand and received therein a victory, in that attitude she stands forevermore. But God's works move and breathe, they use and judge the things of sense, the workmanship of such an artist. Wilt thou dishonor him? Aye, when he not only fashioned thee, but placed thee like a ward in the care and guardianship of thyself alone, wilt thou not only forget this, but also do dishonor to what is committed to thy care? If God had entrusted thee with an orphan, wouldst thou have thus neglected him? He hath delivered thee to thine own care, saying, I had none more faithful than myself. Keep this man for me, such as nature hath made him, modest, faithful, high-minded, a stranger to fear, to passion, to perturbation. Such will I show myself to you all, what exempt from sickness also, from age, from death. Nay, but accepting sickness and accepting death as becomes a god. No labor, according to Diogenes, is good, but that which aims at producing courage and strength of soul rather than of body. A guide on finding a man who has lost his way brings him back to the right path. He does not mock and jeer at him and then take himself off. You also must show the unlearned man the truth, and you will see that he will follow, but so long as you do not show it to him. You should not mock, but rather feel your own incapacity. It was the first and most striking characteristic of Socrates never to become heated in discourse, never to utter an injurious or insulting word. On the contrary, he persistently bore insult from others, and thus put an end to the fray. If you care to know the extent of his power in this direction, read Xenophon's Banquet, and you will see how many quarrels he put an end to. That is why the poets are right in so highly commending this faculty. Quickly and wisely, withal even bitter feuds would he settle. Nevertheless, the practice is not very safe at present, especially in Rome. One who adopts it, I need not say, ought not to carry it out in an obscure corner, but boldly and cost occasion serve some personage of rank or wealth. Can you tell me, sir, to whose care you entrust your horses? I can. Is it to the first comer who knows nothing about them? Certainly not. Well, what of the man who takes care of your gold, your silver, or your raiment? He must be experienced also. And your body? Have you ever considered about entrusting it to anyone's care? Of course I have. And no doubt to a person of experience as a trainer, a physician, surely. Are these things best to possess, or have you anything more precious? What can you mean? I mean, that which employs thee, which weighs all things, which takes counsel and resolve. Oh, you mean the soul. You take me rightly, I do mean the soul. By heaven, I hold that far more precious than all else I possess. Can you show me, then, what care you bestow on the soul? For it can scarcely be thought that a man of your wisdom and consideration in the city would suffer your most precious possession to go to ruin through carelessness and neglect. Certainly not. Well, do you take care of it yourself? Did anyone teach you the right method, or did you discover it yourself? Now here comes the danger. First, the great man may answer, Why, what is it that to you, my good fellow? Are you my master? And then, if you persist in troubling him, may raise his hand to strike you. It is a practice of which I was myself warm admirer until such experiences as these befell me. When a youth was giving himself airs in the theatre and saying, I am wise, for I have conversed with many wise men, Epictetus replied, I too have conversed with many rich men, yet I am not rich. We see that a carpenter becomes a carpenter by learning certain things, like that of a pilot. By learning certain things becomes a pilot. Possibly also in the present case, the mere desire to be wise and good is not enough. It is necessary to learn certain things. This is then the object of our search. The philosophers would have us first learn that there is a God, and that his providence directs the universe. Further, that to hide from him not only one's acts, but even one's thoughts and intentions is impossible. Secondly, what the nature of God is. Whatever the nature is discovered to be, the man is, in his might, made like to him. If the divine is faithful, he also must be faithful. If free, he also must be free. If beneficent, he also must be beneficent. If magnanimous, he also must be magnanimous. Thus, as an imitator of God, must he follow him in every deed and word. If I show you that you lack just what is most important and necessary to happiness, that hitherto your attention has been bestowed on everything rather than that which claims it most, and to crown all that you know neither what God nor man is, neither what God nor evil is, why? That you are ignorant of everything else, perhaps you may bear to be told, but to hear that you know nothing of yourself, how could you submit to that? How could you stand your ground and suffer that to be proved? Clearly not at all. You instantly turn away in wrath. Yet what harm have I done you? Unless indeed the mirror harms the ill-favored man by showing him to himself just as he is, unless the physician can be thought to insult his patient when he... Do you suppose there is nothing new? Why, you have a feet, eat nothing today, and drink only water. Yet no one says what an insufferable man. Your desires are inflamed, your instinct action are weak and low, your aims are inconsistent, your impulses are not in harmony with nature, your opinions are rash and false. He forthwith goes away and complains that you have insulted him. Your way of life resembles a fair. The fox and herder pass along to be sold, and the greater part of the crowd to buy and sell. But there are some few who come only to look at the fair, to inquire how and why it is being held, on what authority and with what object. So too, in this great fair of life, some, like the cattle, trouble themselves about nothing with the fodder. Now all of you who are busied about land, slaves, and public posts, that there are nothing but fodder. Some few things are attending the fair, love to contemplate what the world is, what he that administers it. Can there be no administrator? Is it possible that while neither city nor household could endure even for a moment without one to administer and see to its welfare, this fabric so fast should be administered in order by blind chance. There is therefore an administrator. What is his nature, and how does he administer? Who are we that are his children, and what work will be born to perform? Have we any close connection or relation with him or not? Such are the impressions of the few of whom I speak, and further they apply themselves solely to considering and examining the great assembly before they depart. While they are derided by the multitude, so are the lookers on by the traders. Aye, and if the beast had any sense, they would deride those who thought much anything but fodder. I think I know now what I never knew before, the meaning of the common saying, "Fool, you can neither bend nor break." Pray heaven I may never have a wise fool for my friend. There is nothing more intractable, my resolve is fixed. Why, so madmen say too, but the more firmly they believe in the delusions, the more they stand in need of treatment. Oh, when shall I see Athens and its Acropolis again? Miserable man, art thou not contented with the daily sights and meet thine eyes? Canst thou behold aught greater or nobler than the sun, moon, and stars, than the outspread earth and sea? If indeed thou apprehendest him who administers the universe, if thou bearest him about within thee, canst thou still hanker after mere fragments of stone and a fine rock? When thou art about to bid farewell to the sun and moon itself, wilt thou sit down and cry like a child? Why, what didst thou hear? What didst thou learn? Why didst thou write thyself down a philosopher when thou mightest have written what was the fact, namely, I have made one or two compendiums. I have read some works of Chrysippus, and I have not even touched the hem of philosophy's robe, but friend, behold, the desperate grasp there, it is too late on freedom, on tranquility, on greatness of soul, lift up thy thread, lift up thy head, as one escaped from slavery, dare to look up to God and say, deal with me henceforth as thou wilt. Thou and I are one of one mind. I am thine, I refuse nothing that seemeth good to thee. Gone whither thou wilt, clothe me in what garb thou pleasest. Wilt thou have me a ruler or a subject at home or in exile, poor or rich? All these things will I justify unto men for me. I will show the true nature of each. Would Hercules have been had he loitered at all? No Hercules, but Eurystheus. And in his wanderings through the world, how many friends and comrades did he find, but nothing dearer to him than God? Wherefore he was believed to be God's son, as indeed he was. So then, in obedience to him, he went about delivering the earth from injustice and lawlessness. But thou art not Hercules, thou sayest, and canst not deliver others from their iniquity, not even Theseus to deliver the soil of Attica from its monsters. Put away thine own, cast forth thence from thine own mind, not robbers and monsters, but fear, desire, envy, malignity, avarice, effeminacy, intemperance. And these may not be cast out except by looking to God alone, by fixing thy affections on him only, and by consecrating thyself to his commands. If thou choosest aught else with sighs and groans, thou wilt be forced to follow a might greater than thine own, ever seeking tranquility without, and never able to attain unto her. For thou seekest her where she is not to be found, and where she is, there thou seekest her not. If a man would pursue philosophy, his first task is to throw away conceit, for it is impossible for a man to begin to learn what he has a conceit that he already knows. For it is impossible for a man to begin to learn what he has a conceit, that he already knows. Give me but one young man that has come to the school with this intention, who stands forth a champion of this cause and says, all else I renounce, content if I am but able to pass my life free from hindrance and trouble, to raise my head aloft and face all things as a free man, to look up to heaven and as a friend of God-fearing. Nothing that may come to pass. Point out such a one to me, that I may say, enter, young man, into possession of that which is thine own, for thy lot is to adorn philosophy. Thine are these possessions, thine these books, these discourses. And when our champion has duly exercised himself in this part of the subject, I hope he will come back to me and say, what I desire is to be free from passion and from perturbation, as one who grudges no pains in the pursuit of piety and philosophy. What I desire is to know men duty to the gods, my duty to my parents, to my brothers, to my country, to my strangers. And then on the second part of the subject, it is thine also. But I have already mastered the second part, only I wish to stand firm and unshaken. As firm when asleep as when awake, as firm when elated as with wine, as in despondency and dejection. Friend, you are verily a God you cherish great designs. The question at stake, said Epictetus, is no common one. It is this: are we in our senses, or are we not? If you have given way to anger, be sure that over and above the evil involved therein, you have strengthened the habit and added fuel to the fire. Overcome by temptation of the flesh, do not work unity, single defeat, but that you have also strengthened your dusty habits. Habits and faculties are necessarily affected by the corresponding acts. Those that were not there before spring up, the rest gain and strengthen instead. This is the account which philosophers give of the origin of diseases of the mind. Suppose you have once lusted after money. If reason sufficient to produce a sense of evil be applied, then the lust is checked, and the mind at once regains its original authority. Whereas if you have recourse to no remedy, you can no longer look for this return. On the contrary, the next time it is excited by the corresponding object, the flame of desire leaps up more quickly than before. With frequent repetition, the mind in the long run becomes callous, and thus this mental disease produces confirmed avarice. One who has had fever, even when it has left him, is not in the same condition of health as before. Unless indeed his cure is complete. Something of the same sort is true also of diseases of the mind. Behind there remains a legacy of traces and of blisters, and unless these are effectually erased, subsequent blows on the same spot will produce no longer mere blisters but sores. If you do not wish to be prone to anger, do not feed the habit. Give it nothing which may tend to its increase. At first, keep quiet and count the days when you were not angry. You used to be angry every day, then every other day, next every 2, next every 3 days. And if you succeed in passing 30 days, sacrifice to the gods in thanksgiving. How then may this be attained? Resolve now, if never before, to prove thyself to thyself. Resolve to show thyself fair in God's sight. Long to be pure with thine own pure self and God. That is the true athlete that trains himself to resist such outward impressions as these. Stay, wretched man, suffer not thyself to be carried away. Great is the combat, divine the task. You are fighting for kingship, for liberty, for happiness, for tranquility. Remember God, call upon him to aid thee, like a comrade that stands beside thee in the fight. Who then is a Stoic, in the sense that we call that a statue of Phidias, which is modeled after that master's art? Show me a man in this sense modeled after the doctrines that are ever upon his lips. Show me a man that is sick and happy in danger, and happy on his deathbed, and happy in exile, and happy in evil report, and happy. Show me him, I ask again, so help me heaven, I long to see one Stoic. Nay, if you cannot show me one fully modeled, let me at least see one in whom the process is at work, one whose bent is in that direction. Do me that favor, grudge it not to an old man to behold a sight that he has never yet beheld. Think you I wish to see the Zeus or Athena of Phidias, bedecked with gold and ivory? Nay, show me one of you a human soul, desiring to be of one mind with God, no more to lay blame on him or man, to suffer nothing, to disappoint nothing, to cross him, to yield neither to anger, envy, nor jealousy. In a word, why disguise the matter? One that from a man would fain become a god, one that while still imprisoned in this dead body makes fellowship with God his aim. Show me him. I cannot. Then why mock yourselves and delude others? Why stalk we about, tricked out in other men's attire, thieves and robbers, that you are names and things to which you can show no title? But God hath introduced man to be a spectator of himself and of his works, and not a spectator only, but also an interpreter of them. Wherefore it is a shame for man to begin it to leave off rather he should begin there, and leave off where nature leaves off in us, and that is at contemplation and understanding, and a manner of life that is in harmony with herself. See then that ye die not without being spectators of these things. You journey to Olympia to see the work of Phidias, and each of you holds it a misfortune not to have beheld these things before you die. Whereas when there is no need even to take a journey, but you are on the spot with the works before you, have you no care to contemplate and study these? Will you not then perceive either who you are or unto what end you were born? Or for what purpose the power of contemplation has bestowed upon you? But in life there are some things disagreeable and hard to bear. And are there none at Olympia? Have you not scorched by the heat? Are you not cramped for room? Have you not to bathe with discomfort? Are you not drenched when it rains? Have you not to endure the clamor and shouting and such noises as these? Well, I suppose you set all this over against the splendor of the spectacle and bear it patiently. What then? Have you not received powers wherewith to endure all that comes to pass? Have you not received greatness of heart, received courage, received fortitude? What care I if I am great of heart, for aught that can come to pass? What shall cast me down or disturb me? What shall seem painful? Shall I not use the power to end for which I received it, instead of moaning and wailing over what comes to pass? If what philosophers say of the kinship of God and man be true, what remains for man to do but as Socrates did? Never, when asked one's country, to answer, I am an Athenian or a Corinthian, but I am a citizen of the world. He that hath grasped the administration of the world, who hath learned that this community, which consists of God and man, is the foremost and mightiest and most comprehensive of all, that from God have descended the germs of life, not to my father only and father's father, but to all things that are born and grow upon the earth, and in an especial manner to those endowed with reason, for those only are by their nature fitted to communion with God, being by means of reason conjoined with him. Why should not such an one call himself a citizen of the world? Why not a son of God? Why should he fear aught that comes to pass among men? Shall kinship with Caesar or any other of the great at Rome be enough to hedge men around with safety and consideration, without a thought of apprehension, without to have God for our Maker and Father the kinsman? Shall not this set us free from sorrows and fears? I do not think that an old fellow like me need have been sitting here to try and prevent your entertaining object notions of yourselves, and talking of yourselves in an abject and ignoble way, but to prevent there being by chance among you any such young men as, after recognizing their kindred to the gods, and the bondage in these chains of the body and its manifold necessities, should desire to cast them off its burdens too grievous to be borne, and depart to their true kindred. This is the struggle in which your master and teacher, where humility of name should be engaged, you would come to me and say, Epictetus, we can no longer endure being chained to this wretched body, giving it food and drink and rest and purification, aye, and for its sake forced to be subservient to this man, and that are not these things indifferent and nothing to us? Is it not true that death is no evil? Are we not in a manner kinsmen of the gods, and have we not come from them? Let us depart thither whence we came. Let us be freed from these chains that confine and press us down. Here are thieves and robbers and tribunals, and they that are called tyrants, who deem that they have, after a fashion, power over us, because of the miserable body and what pertains to it. Let us show them that they have power over none. And to this I reply, friends, wait for God. When he gives the signal and releases you from this service, then depart to him. But for the present endure to dwell in the place wherein he hath assigned you your post. Short indeed is the time of your habitation therein, and easy to those that are thus minded. What tyrant, what robber, what tribunals have any terrors for those who thus esteem the body and all that belong to it as of no account? Stay, depart not rashly hence. Something like that is what should pass between a teacher and ingenious youths. As it is, what does pass? The teacher is a lifeless body, and you are lifeless bodies yourselves. When you have had enough to eat, to today you sit down and weep about tomorrow's food, slave. If you have it, well and good. If not, you will depart with doors open wide lament. What further room is there for tears? What further occasion for flattery? Why should one envy another? Why should you stand in awe of them that have much or are placed in power, especially if they be of all so strong and passionate? Why? What should they do to us? What they can do we will not regard. What does concern us that they cannot do? Who then shall still rule one that is thus minded? Seeing this then, and noting well the faculties which you have, you should say, send now, O God, any trial that thou wilt. Though I have means and powers given me by thee to acquit myself with honour through whatever comes to pass. No, but there you sit trembling for fear certain things should come to pass, and moaning and groaning and lamenting over what does come to pass, and then you upbraid the gods. Such meanness of spirit can have but one result in piety. Yet God has not only given us these faculties by means of which we may bear everything that comes to pass without being crushed or depressed thereby, but like a good king and father, he has given us this without let or hindrance, placed wholly at our own disposition without reserving to himself any power of impediment or restraint. Though possessing all these things free and all your own, you do not use them. You do not perceive what is you have received, nor whence it comes, but sit moaning and groaning, some of you blind to the giver, making no acknowledgement to your benefactor, others basely giving themselves to complaints and accusations against God. Yet what faculties and powers you possess for attaining courage and greatness of heart, I can easily show you. What you have for upbraiding and accusation, it is for you to show me. How did Socrates bear himself in this regard? How else then as became one who was fully assured that he was the kinsman of the gods? If God has made that part of his own nature which he served, severed from himself and gave to us, liable to be hindered or constrained either by himself or any other, he would not have been God, nor would he have been taking care of us as he ought. If you choose, you are free. If you choose, you need blame no man. Accuse no man. All things will be at once according to your mind and according to the mind of God. Petrification is of two sorts. There is petrification of the understanding, and also the sense of shame. This happens when a man obstinately refuses to acknowledge plain truths and persists in maintaining what is self-contradictory. Most of us dread mortification of the body and would spare no pains to escape anything of that kind, but of mortification of the soul we are utterly heedless. With regard, indeed, to the soul of a man is in such a state as to be incapable of following or understanding anything. I grant you, we do think him in a bad way. What mortification of the sense of shame and modesty, we go so far as to doubt its strength of mind. If we were as intent upon our own business as the old fellows at Rome are upon what interests them, we too might perhaps accomplish something. I know a man older than I am, now superintendent of the corn market at Rome, and I remember when he passed through this place on his way back from exile, what an account he gave me of his former life, declaring that for future, once home again, his only care should be to pass his remaining years in quiet and tranquility. For how few years have I left, he cried. That, I said, you will not do. But the moment the scent of Rome is in your nostrils, you will forget it all, and if you can but gain admission to court, you'll be glad enough to elbow your way in, thank God for it. Epictetus, he replied, if you ever find me setting as much as 1 foot within the court, think what you will of me. Well, as it was, what did he do ere ever he entered the city? He was met by dispatch from the emperor. He took it and forgot the whole of his resolutions. From that moment he has been piling one thing upon another. I should like to be beside him to remind him of what he said in passing this way, and to add how much better a prophet I am than you. What then? Do I say man is not made for an active life? Far from it, but there is a great difference between other men's occupations and ours. A glance at theirs will make it clear to you all day long. They do nothing but calculate, contrive, consult how to wring their profit out of foodstuffs, farm plots, and the like. Whereas I entreat you to learn what the administration of the world is, and what place it being endowed with reason holds therein, to consider what you are yourself, and wherein your good and evil consists. A man asked me to write to Rome on his behalf, who, as most people thought, had met with misfortune, for having been before wealthy and distinguished, He had afterwards lost all and was living here, so I wrote about him in a humble style. He, however, on reading the letter, returned it to me with the words, I asked for your help, not for your pity. No evil has happened unto me. True instruction is this, to learn to wish that each thing should come to pass as it does. And how does it come to pass? As the disposer has disposed it. Now he has disposed that there should be summer and winter, plenty and dearth, and vice and virtue, and all such opposites for the harmony of the whole. Have this thought ever present with thee. When thou losest any outward thing, what thou gainest in its stead. And if this be the more precious, say not, I have suffered loss. Concerning the gods, there are who deny the very existence of the Godhead. Others say that it exists, but neither bestows nor concerns itself, nor has forethought for anything. The third party attribute to it existence and forethought, but only for great and heavenly matters, not for anything that is on earth. A fourth party admit things on earth as well as in heaven, but only in general, and not with respect to each individual. A fifth of whom were Ulysses and Socrates, are those that cry, I move not without thy knowledge. Considering all these things, the good and true man submits his judgment to him that administers the universe, even as good citizens, to the law of the state. And he that is being instructed should come thus minded, how may I in all things follow the gods? And how may I satisfied with the divine administration? And how may I become free? For he is free for whom all things come to pass, according to his will, and whom none can hinder. What then is freedom? Madness? God forbid, for madness and freedom exist not together. But I wish all that I desire to come to pass, and in the manner that I desire. You are mad, you are beside yourself. Know you not that freedom is a glorious thing and of great worth? But that what I desired at random, I should wish at random to come to pass so far from being noble, may well be exceeding base. You must know that it is no easy thing for a principle to become a man's own unless each day he maintained it and hear it maintained as well as work it out in life. You are impatient and hard to please. If alone you call it solitude, if in the company of men you dub them conspirators and thieves and find fault with your very parents, children, brothers, and neighbors, whereas when by yourself you should have called it tranquility and freedom, and herein deemed yourself like unto the gods. And when in the company of the many you should not have called it a weirdsome crowd and tumult, but an assembly and a tribunal, and thus accepted all with contentment. What then is the chastisement of those who accept it? Not to be as they are. Is any discontented with being alone? Let him be in solitude. Is any discontented with his parents? Let him be a bad son, let lament. Is any discontented with his children? Let him be a bad father, throw him to prison. What prison? Where he is already, for he is there against his will. And wherever a man is against his will, there to him is a prison. Thus Socrates was not in prison, since he was there with his own consent. Knowing thou what speck thou art in comparison with the universe? That is, with respect to the body, since with respect to reason thou art not inferior to the gods, no less than they. For the greatness of reason is not measured by length or height, but by the resolves of the mind. Place then thy happiness in that wherein thou art equal to the gods. Asked how a man might eat acceptably to the gods, Epictetus replied, if when he eats he can be just, cheerful, equable, temperate, and orderly, can he not thus eat acceptably to the gods? But when you call for warm water and your slave does not answer, or when he enters brings it lukewarm, or is not even found to be in the house at all, then not to be vexed nor burst with anger, is not that acceptable to the gods? But how can one endure such people? Slave, will you not endure your own brother that has God to his forefather, even as a son sprung from the same stock and of the same high descent as yourself? And if you are stationed in a high position, are you therefore forthwith to set up for a tyrant? Remember who you are and whom you rule, that they are by nature your kinsmen, your brothers, the offspring of God. But I paid a price for them, not they for me. Do you see whither you are looking? Down to the earth, to the pie, to the pit? to those despicable laws of the dead, but to the laws of the gods you do not look. When we are invited to a banquet, we take what is set before us, and were one to call upon his host to set fish upon the table or sweet things, he would be deemed absurd. Yet in a word, we ask the gods for what they do not give, and that although they have given us so many things, asked how a man might convince himself that every single act of this was under the eye of God. Epictetus answered, "Do you not hold that all things are bound together in one?" "I do." "Well, and do you not hold that things on earth and things in heaven are continuous and in unison with each other?" "I do," was the reply. "Else how should the trees so regularly, as though by God's command, at his bidding flower, at his bidding send forth shoots, bear fruit and ripen it, at his bidding let it fall and shed their leaves, folded up upon themselves lie in quietness and rest? How else, as the moon waxes and wanes, as the sun approaches and recedes, can it be that such vicissitude and alternation is seen in earthly things? If then all things that grow, nay, our own bodies are thus bound up with the whole, is it not this still truer of the souls? And if our souls are bound up and in contact with God as being very parts and fragments plucked from himself, shall he not feel every... All right, here we go. With God as being very parts and fragments plucked from himself, shall he not feel every movement of theirs as though it were his own, and belonging to his own nature? But you say, I cannot comprehend all this at once. Why, who told you that your powers were equal to God's? Yet God hath placed by the side of each a man's own guardian spirit. To the Stoics, the guardian spirit was each man's reason, who is charged to watch over him, the guardian who sleeps, nor is deceived. For to what better or more watchful guardian could he have committed each of us? So when you have shut the doors and made a darkness within, remember never to say that you are alone, for you are not alone, but God is within, and your guardian spirit. What light do they need to behold what you do? To this God you also should have sworn allegiance, even as soldiers unto Caesar. Dad swear to hold the life of Caesar clear, dearer than ours, and will you not swear your oath that are deemed worthy of so many and great gifts? And will you not keep your oath when you have sworn it? And what oath will you swear? Never to disobey, never to arraign or murmur at aught that comes to you from his hand, never unwillingly to do or suffer aught that necessity lays upon you. Is this oath like theirs? I swear to hold no other dearer than Caesar, you to hold our true selves dearer than all else beside. How shall my brother cease to be wroth with me? Bring him to me, and I will tell him. But to thee I have nothing to say about his anger. When one took counsel of Epictetus, saying, What I seek is this, how even though my brother be not reconciled to me, I may still remain as nature would have me to be. He replied, All great things are slow of growth. Nay, this is true even of a grape or of a fig. If then you say to me now, I desire a fig, I shall answer, it needs time. Wait till it first flower, then cast its blossom, then ripen. Whereas when the fruit of the fig tree reaches not maturity suddenly, nor yet in a single hour, do you nevertheless desire so quickly and easily to reap the fruit of the mind of man? Nay, expect it not, even though I bade you. Epaphroditus had a shoemaker whom he sold as being good for nothing. This fellow by some accident, was afterwards purchased by one of Caesar's men, and became shoemaker to Caesar, you should have seen what respect Epaphroditus paid him then. How does the good Felicion kindly let me know? And if any of us inquired, what is Epaphroditus doing? The answer was, he is consulting about so and so with Felicion. Had he not sold him as good for nothing, who had in a trice converted him into a wiseacre? This is what comes of holding of importance anything but the things that depend on will. What you shun, enduring yourself, attempt not to impose on others. You shun slavery. Beware of enslaving others. If you can endure to do that, one would think you had been once upon a time a slave yourself. For vice has nothing in common with virtue, nor freedom with slavery. Has a man been raised to the tribuneship? Every one that he meets congratulates him. One kisses him on the eyes, another on the neck, while the slaves kiss his hands. He goes home to find torches burning. He ascends to the Capitol to sacrifice. Whoever sacrificed for having had right desires, for having conceived such inclinations as nature would have him. In truth, we thank the gods for that wherein we place our happiness. A man was talking to me today about the priesthood of Augustus. I said to him, let the thing go, my good sir. You will spend a great deal to no purpose. Well, but my name will be inserted in all the documents and contracts. Will you be standing there to tell those that read them, that is my name written there? And even though you could now be there in every case, what will you do when you are dead? At all events, my name will remain. Inscribe it on a stone, and it will remain just as well, and think beyond Nicopolis, what memory of you will there be. But I shall have a golden wreath to wear. If you must have a wreath, get a wreath of roses and put it on. You will look more elegant. Above all, remember that the door stands open. Be not more fearful than children, but as they, when they weary of the game, cry, I will play no more. Even so, when thou art in the like case, cry, I will play no more, and depart. But if thou stayest, make no lamentation. Is there smoke in the room? If it be slight, I remain. If grievous, I quit it. For you must.
Applications. The question is, should it be illegal for AI to take people's jobs? So I just did a little research. Since the beginning of this decade, there have been hundreds of thousands of people whose jobs have been displaced by AI or robotics. And this all started a long time before the robotic move. And of course, technology moves forward and it changes things and it changes the way we do things. But it's really been accelerated, people's jobs being taken by AI. We all know that. We even see actors worried about their voice work going away because AI can emulate their voices. We're going to see newscasters, and we've already seen radio disc jockeys displaced by AI. We can all think of innumerable examples of people being displaced by AI. I just looked it up.